The date is January 18th, 2026. In Mario Kart PC, a person named Zooya had been holding the 200cc Vanilla Lake 2 world record for 121 days now. But that was about to change. On this day, someone was making a push for the world record. If you have seen this video, you will probably know who it was. This was my first ever world record. I was very happy with what I had done. I had posted my accomplishments in the forums. Lots of people cheered me on, even the former world record holder Zooya. Zooya asked me a question. He asked if I would improve the world record or get more, and I didn't know at the time. But there was one thing that I was sure of. Since I had gotten a 5.2 second lap, I believed that a sub 16 seconds was possible. Would it be hard? Yes. But did I think it was doable? Also yes. Hitting all 3 shortcuts just wasn't enough. You had to be able to fix up my lap 1 to match up, or almost match up with laps 2 and 3, then get fast enough times on both lap 2 and 3, so that you can even out their laps on the track. That even included a 5.2 lap on lap 2. That was very hard to do, but who would be the first one to do it? Me and Zooya's world records were different. Here's how. I was reverse drifting. It allowed me to build up orange turbos faster and take slightly tighter turns than Zooya. However, it was hard for me to match Zooya on lap 1. However, I was absolutely dominate on laps 2 and 3. Zooya, on the other hand, he was snaking. This was an easier method than reverse drifting, but it harder to get orange turbo boosts and to get tighter lines and just world records overall. But he was extremely good at it. I mean, top-tier players could get world records with reverse drifting, but if you were to get a world record with snaking, that showed you had clear dominance over that track. Zooya was really good at keeping consistent laps, keeping them at around a low 5.4 to high 5.3. I was bad at lap 1, but amazing at laps 2 and 3, and that balanced things out. But a world record was a world record. Zooya meant what he said, and so he took that as a call to action. Some person who just came back into the community, gotten really good at reverse drifting, and beat his only world record. So, Zooya started grinding Vanilla Lake 2 again, and his skills had only improved since those last 121 days. I was done with grinding Vanilla Lake 2 for now. So without me defending it, my world record became very vulnerable to Zooya with it just being only a few frames faster than his, and results came in quick. This is the current graph of the world record history since my world record. The yellow line is me and the orange line is Zooya. In 5 days, Zooya got back the world record twice. The world record had been beaten 3 times in the past 5 days. That's impressive. But even though the world record progression had ramped up in activity over the past 5 days, without me trying to beat it, it was clear that this world record was going to stay for a while. Zooya was the ultimate champion of Vanilla Lake 2. And I was done with time trialing Vanilla Lake 2 and thought that my journey was over. Or so I thought. Even though Zooya was absolutely dominant at this track and was snaking, I had the potential. I was only around 200 milliseconds away. When I saw Zooya had beat the world record, I knew I had to take it back. If I were to get the world record again, I didn't want it to be there for only 2 days. I wanted this one to last for a while. However, Zooya was still active too and could still end up taking the world record lower. And so, I started grinding like I never had before. This is where I was the first day of attempts. I had been breaking my own PBs a lot. I hadn't been getting lots of full runs in, but my laps were improving rapidly. I was on course to break the world record soon. If I just kept trying to break it, I knew it would happen. Then this happened a week later. I now had the world record back, but now I wasn't reaching for that anymore. I had the opportunity to break the 16-second barrier, so I kept playing, but a few days later something happened. And this time it wasn't Zooya beating the world record. This is what it was. You see, this whole time I had been messaging someone. I had been telling them my status on my grind, and they kept cheering me on. However, one day after I had beaten Zooya's world record, he decided he wanted to give Vanilla Lake 2 a try. And this person's name was Neptunogamer. Neptunogamer had been playing the game for a year now. He had a bit more experience than me and Zooya. While Zooya was the former world record holder of Vanilla Lake 2 and I was the current world record holder, Neptunogamer was the world record holder on Koopa Beach 1 and Vanilla Lake 1, and a ton of former world records on GBA Bowser Castle 1. He was currently ranked 41st place in Vanilla Lake 2, but when he started trying to beat the world record, he did this. Neptunogamer had officially joined the race. All three of us were still active and grinding to take the record lower. But the only person who was actually making some progress over the past 3 days was Neptunogamer. But there was one major difference between Neptunogamer. He was using Bowser stats. Why is this so important? Well, in all the main Mario Kart games, there was always a best combo or best stats, which Mario Kart PC was no exception. Usually, the best players would use Daisy stats because they had the best acceleration and handling. That's what me and Zooya were doing. Neptunogamer, however, he was using Bowser stats for most of his runs, which had terrible acceleration and handling, but had very fast speed. All three of us had our own strategies. I was reverse drifting with Daisy stats, Zooya was snaking with Daisy stats, and Neptunogamer was reverse drifting with Bowser stats. Even though Neptunogamer was using Bowser stats, he still had the chance to take his PB lower and potentially getting a world record. He had 2 world records already. He knew what it was like to get world records, but this was something different. It could be his chance to break the 16-second barrier. He had the experience to do this. He was around 300 milliseconds behind the world record. He could have ended his grind as soon as he got close. Then maybe either me or Zooya could take it. But what if I told you he was just getting started? Neptunogamer was just 5 milliseconds away from my world record. This was the true power of Neptunogamer. I was still grinding, and so was Zooya. But we weren't getting any new times. But we both knew eventually that we would get a new PB after a while. Even I thought that I would get another PB before Neptunogamer got another one. Right? This was a miracle run. He was now less than 100 milliseconds away from the 16-second barrier. It had seemed like in the past 4 days me and Zooya weren't making progress anytime soon, and Neptunogamer had left us in the dust. However, we both wanted to break the barrier too. Neptunogamer was so close, just less than 100 milliseconds away. We had to do something quick, or else it would be over. So even though we both didn't have any new PBs over the past few days, the 6th of February was going to be a completely different story. After some time, finally me and Zooya have been able to make some ground. We still had a while to go though, but then probably the most devastating event of my speedrunning history happens. I get a 5.683 millisecond lap 1. This wasn't very shocking, and was honestly an average run to me. Before this I had felt very burnt out, and felt like I was going to give up soon. But then out of nowhere, on lap 2, I get a 5.94 millisecond lap 2. This is an absolute miracle, and only the 4th time I had ever got a 5.0 lap 2 or 3. This was now a real run. It was one of the best chances I would ever have at this barrier. The lap 3 that I needed was 5.222. This was slightly better than my average of around 5.25. I had spent the past almost 3 weeks at this point trying to get here. Please, just please, give me what I need. I missed it by 8 milliseconds. This was absolutely heartbreaking for me. I had gone so close, yet to miss it by 8 milliseconds. The next world record was almost guaranteed the sub 16. At that moment, I felt that these last 3 weeks had been for nothing, but that wasn't true. I had put up so much effort. I didn't care how burned out I was. I was going to keep trying until at least someone got it. But then Zooya discovered a strategy by hopping off the very corner between the pipe and the water. If you hop again, just right, it can save you some time. With this new strategy, Zooya would be able to catch up a little bit on me and Neptunogamer's laps 2 and 3. All Zooya had to do was get a good run with it, and the very next day he would get the best chance he ever had at sub 16 in his life. On the 7th of February, Zooya pulls off a pretty good lap 1 at 5.4 seconds. He doesn't go for the new pipe strat. This so far is an average run. But then on lap 2, he goes for the pipe strat on lap 2. Because of this, he gets a 5.1 second lap. Once he reaches lap 3, he is now nervous. Over the past 3 weeks, Zooya, me, and Neptunogamer had been grinding and trading the record so that we could get the sub 16 second barrier. But maybe, after all this time, Zooya could be the one to get it. He was very well ahead of his ghost because of this new strat. If he didn't do this, it could take a while to get back to where he is on this day. The only things stopping him were his nerves and the iceberg. The execution was now gone. All Zooya had to do now was cross the finish line and see what time he got. After 3 weeks of all of us grinding, me starting the path, Neptunogamer getting less than 100 milliseconds away, and then Zooya finally became the one to do it. But here's the thing, just a few days later he would set another world record at 15.859. This time he did the pipe strat twice, and so far that's where we're at today. With Zooya now having the world record again, everyone was satisfied and stopped. For now, this is the end. Thanks for watching.